one of the HAFF tender. You know about this?
Yes, sir.
So there was a media release in September from the Prime Minister and the Housing Minister.
That's right.
So did that come through the department, your area?
I'll just check with my team if we were involved in drafting it. Yeah. Yes, it did.
Okay, did you know in this media release that it said in the name of the Prime Minister and the Housing Minister that Housing Australia has recommended contract negotiations for 185 projects, with construction on almost 40% of the 13,742 dwellings forecast to get underway this financial year?
Yes, we're aware of that, Senator.
Okay. And then you know then that at the last estimates, which I think was in November, you were here and it was made known that there'd been one contract signed at that stage. Subsequent to that, I think in January or maybe early February, there was another release from the Minister saying that there'd now been more contracts signed. I think from memory maybe it was 12?
I believe it was...
That's correct.
12 contracts, okay, that's good. And that covered about 800 houses. Is that right?
Yes.
And this is round one of the HAFF. So the HAFF hasn't financed any other housing so far. This is round one.
So it's
is that right?
Felix Donovan, Assistant Secretary Housing Division, that was correct as at the 31st of January when that announcement was made. There have been more contracts signed since that point. So
how many now?
So we are just over 20 contracts for more than 1,800 homes.
Okay, so it's gone from announcement in September of 13,000 houses, one contract signed as at November, 12 as at January for 800 houses, and now 20 contracts signed for over 1,000.
1,000, more than 1,800.
Almost 2,000, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And how many of those contracts have resulted in building houses so far?
So, Senator, those projects are broadly up to 3 different points. All of those homes, you could divide them into 3 categories.
Yep.
One is homes that are already built, were acquired and are now operational. So the first HAFF homes are tenanted now. There are people living in new social and affordable homes that the HAFF has made available.
So they've acquired them? Because there's no way that since the contract was signed, they've built houses. You can't build a house. The average time to build a house is about 10 or 11 months.
Yes.
So they haven't built houses, have they?
So those houses that are the new social and affordable homes that are operational are likely to be acquisitions. Exact sort of project level details are questions best put to Housing Australia.
Okay.
But our understanding is that those are likely to have been acquisitions.
So the HAFF has acquired houses that were already in existence. They were built by someone else.
So the HAFF has supported CHPs and other proponents to bring online new social and affordable housing.
Yeah.
That is mostly through building new houses as a result of funding that's flown.
How many of those been built so far?
How many houses have been built? So, sorry.
If you have the answers. I was just going to say the detailed questions about the HAFF should really go to Housing Australia later. But, I mean, sorry, we can be as helpful as we can, but the detail for the witnesses will be for later today.
So I think the official has just said that of the houses that people are living in now, the HAFF houses, they were acquired.
So just to clarify my evidence, what I said was that under the HAFF, both acquisitions and new constructions are supported. The project level information would be available from Housing Australia. Of the 1,800 homes contracted so far, there would be a mix of homes currently under construction, to be constructed, and already constructed and acquired.
But the point is that HAFF is not just building new houses, and the HAFF program is not about just building new houses. It's also about acquiring existing houses, isn't it?
Acquiring houses is allowable under the HAFF arrangements. I mean, the focus is on in the longer term is on building new dwellings, but we don't apologise for trying to increase the range of social and affordable housing product across the economy. I mean, that's an important part of why the HAFF was established, and I know it hasn't been the focus of the Liberal Party, social and affordable housing, but we think it's an important component of alleviating pressure in the housing market for those that find paying rent at market rates difficult.
Okay, so I guess my question is, of the 320 houses that are referred to in the Sydney Morning Herald and the Age today, how many of those houses, 358, sorry, how many of those houses were built and how many were acquired?
Senator, I would recommend putting that question to Housing Australia, who have the latest information on project-specific.
Okay. Well, if contracts have been signed for less than 2,000 houses, then we'd assume that most of them were acquired.
It's through Housing Australia. It's the area that you should direct that. We are trying to be as helpful as we can. And I
suspect that the HAFF hasn't built any houses yet so far. Would you be confident in agreeing with me, Minister?
Well, I'm pleased that there are 340-odd new houses that are allowing tenants, real people, to live in more affordable housing. That is part of this government's focus. I know you dismiss it, but for those people who would have moved in and are tenants of those properties, I would imagine it's making a real difference.
Yeah, but they've been acquired. We'll ask Housing Australia, but it sounds like the HAFF hasn't yet actually built a house. It's been acquiring houses that already existed in the market, that were already built.
That's allowable under the HAFF arrangements.
Fine, but that's not what it says in the paper today.
And after you delayed it for 18 months in the Senate, to sit here and point the finger and say it's not happening fast enough is a bit rich, frankly.
Well, we know
it was you and the Greens teaming up not to allow the passage of that legislation. As soon as it's passed, we've got cracking, and now we're seeing new product enter the housing market.
How many?
4 social and affordable. Well, we've already talked about the ones that are complete with tenants in them, and we have thousands under contract. We have thousands.
You're displacing
thousands
the market
more
by buying,
than you would have.
You're buying houses that already existed.
You're going to abolish it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know why you ask any questions, because it's something you don't support. You've sought to delay, and you're going to abolish if you win the election.
Well, because these are matters of great public interest. You spent $10 billion to buy 300 houses that already existed.
No, that is not true. You're misrepresenting
$10 billion for 300 houses that already existed.
I'm happy to move on. $10 billion that has a capital outlay, an annual capital injection into the housing market each year.
This has been a disaster.
It has not.
This is a boondoggle.
Oh.
It is. You know it is.
Yeah, well, go. Why don't you?
That's why the Minister's so desperately putting all this stuff into the media today.
Here we go. Why don't we arrange for you to go and meet one of the tenants in the new house, and you can say that to them?
I'm on building sites
Do you think you'd be as brave then? Do you think you'd call them a boondoggle to their face, the tenants in those houses?
This fund hasn't built any houses.
Yeah.
You're embarrassed.
So I don't imagine you will.
I'm embarrassed for you.
You talk tough in Canberra in a committee room. Would you go and meet any of those tenants?
How many building sites have you been on in the last few weeks?
I doubt it very much.
None.
You tell them you're about to abolish the housing that's been provided to them. You tell them you think
most people don't live in a house owned by the government. I know it's shocking to believe in Canberra. I know you live in Canberra. It's a bit of a distorted world.
I look forward to seeing you do that.
Well,
See how
I'll do it with you.
tough talk in the committee room translates to a tenant that's enjoying social and
I'd be happy to go with you.
Senator Bragg, how are you going for time?
I'm inviting the Minister to accompany me to this meeting.
Well, I'd be happy. I would film it. I would film you saying that it's a boondoggle to them.
We'll go together.
And that they don't deserve it.
We'll go together.
Okay.
I look forward to that. Now, I want to ask you also about what the Treasury's role has been in the HAFF tender. Have you had any role in this tender process?
So, Senator, I'll start and pass to the team. Treasury is responsible for advising the Minister around the policy settings of the HAFF, so including the investment mandate, all of those sorts of processes. But the HAFF itself is administered by Housing Australia completely.
So you have nothing to do with that?
I didn't say we had nothing to do with it. I've explained that we're involved at the policy development end and in terms of supporting the Minister to provide instruction to Housing Australia on how the program should be run.
Okay. What sort of... let's talk about the houses in the pipeline, because when I asked Minister Wong about this in the Senate 2 weeks ago, she made the point that there were lots of houses in the pipeline. And I think I made the point you can't live in a pipeline. But for those houses that are in the pipeline, what sort of approval process do they go through when they're commissioned? These judgments, are they made just by Housing Australia's board, or do they go through a cabinet process?
So again, I'll pass to the team, but Senator, I think we're conflating quite a few different things. Some of the numbers that you've heard relate to a range of different programs. So are you talking solely about the HAFF?
Just the HAFF?
Yeah.
The 13,000?
Yes. So
Housing Australia's board, they make
they make the decisions. They are the accountable authority for Housing Australia.
Okay.
But obviously they do that in line with the investment mandate that's been provided by government about the program. And the Cabinet is involved at relevant points in deciding relevant elements of that investment mandate before it's passed on to Housing Australia. But the actual decision-making is undertaken by the Housing Australia Board.
And what about availability payments? Is that something that you can talk about?
Well, that's part of the HAFF, so it's one of the options, the funding options that people have available through the HAFF.
All right. What about, so those questions, so the questions about the tender process, the judgments that they make, the availability payments, they all go to the Housing Australia?
If it's part of the HAFF decision-making, I should also point out that the HAFF is a fund in of itself. Other disbursements are made from the HAFF that don't go for the purposes of this program that Housing Australia runs. So if you're talking about the delivery of the Housing Australia Future Fund projects, then that is all of the options for funding under that program are determined in line with the investment mandate by the board.
Sounds like we'll have to explore that with them.